Hello and warm welcome to everyone. Today I am going to deliver the lecture on the course titled Project Engineering. Any product or services what we are using today in this modern society is the outcome of project. It means that for the fulfillment of the desire or the necessity of any human being, an idea is generated inside the human mind. And if that idea is being translated into the real form or say in the physical form, then such type of task is known as the project. And engineers are basically responsible for the conversion of that particular idea into the reality, because there are varieties of tasks needed to be performed like planning, designing, feasibility study, execution, termination, and finally handovering of that particular product to the consumers. And engineers are only the person to apply the tools and techniques and skills for the conversion of an idea into the reality. Therefore, the knowledge or say the concept of project engineering is very essential subject for the engineers. So, in this lecture, we are going to cover chapter 1, which is the first week of the presentation, and the chapter 1 includes introduction of project and project management. Though all the topics of this particular chapter is not going to be covered in this particular lecture. Therefore, we are going to cover only some portion of this chapter. And in lecture 1, we are going to cover about the concept of project, resources of project, characteristics of project, difference between project and program, and finally project management. Myself, I am Engineer Ishwaradhikari. I am an associate professor under the Department of Civil Engineering, Kathmandu Engineering College, affiliated to Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu, Nepal. So, let's move on to the learning objective of this particular lecture. After studying this lecture, the students will be able to understand about the concept of project. Any task which has the defined goal, which is unique, which is performed under the constraint of time, cost, and quality, and finally, if it gives some benefits to the end users or say the consumers, then such type of tasks can be said as a project. So, what the project is all about and what are the major elements that needed to be considered for saying any task to be a project, and the definition of the project is being particularly discussed in this topic. Similarly, in the second topic, we are going to discuss about the resources of project. There are varieties of resources required for performing the any tasks in the project. The resources may be money, material, manpower, machine, and minutes. So these things are being going to be discussed in this particular topic. Similarly, in the third topic, we are going to discuss about the characteristics of a project. How can be any task is said as a project? What are the major elements that are required for any task to be called as a project? So the task has to meet some characteristics, and there are various characteristics of any task to be called as a project. So the characteristics of a project is being going to be dealt in this particular topic. Similarly, in the second last topic, we are going to discuss about the difference between project and program. If any idea is generated in the human mind, then it takes the form of policy, and the policy is being supported by the program, and program is supported by the project, and the project is supported by the various types of tasks. So here what we have to understand is that the project is the part of the program. And finally, in the last topic, we are going to discuss about the introduction to project management. What the project management is all about. It means that project management is about executing, planning, controlling, and closing of any tasks that are going to be performed in the project. Or in other words, we can say that some sort of management skills are applied to the tasks for the achievement of the goal or objective. So these are the major points that we are going to study in this particular lecture. Now let's move on to the main topic of this lecture. The first topic is the concept of project. As I have already mentioned in the introduction that every product or services that we are using today is the outcome of our necessity. And for the fulfillment of that necessity, an idea is generated in the human mind. And to translate that idea into reality, a single person is not capable of doing it alone. It means that a person has to use the effort of other human being or say the stakeholders for the achievement of the goal or objective of that particular task. So project engineering can also be said as the project management. Management is nothing but the effective and efficient use of the resources for the achievement of the goal or objective. Therefore, a person utilizes the different type of resources in the efficient manner, including the human and non-human resources for the translation of the idea into the physical form. And the process of converting the idea into the reality by utilizing the different types of resources can be said as a project. New scientific ideas, concepts, and thoughts are being discovered every day and have caused a very rapid advancement in the development of new technology. The benefit of these advancement or say the scientific ideas are reaching to people all around the globe which change their behavior and lifestyles as a result again creating the new demands. Therefore, the interaction between the increasing demand of the world population and advancement of science and technology have given birth to different types of project. So this is the basic concept of the project. Now we move on to the definition of project. The first definition can be defined as a project is an unique task, however large or small it may be, with defined goal, limited in cost and time, and giving some benefits to the users after its completion. From this definition, what we can understand is that a project should have the defined goal or objective as well as the project should be unique. It means that the task should not be repeated again and again. And the task should be performed under the limitation of cost and time. And finally, after the task is completed, some sort of benefits can be given to the users or say the consumers. The second definition is a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service As stated in the first definition that the project should be performed under the limitation of time, therefore it can be said as temporary effort for the production of unique product and services. Similarly, the third definition, a project is a collection of limited activities carried out in an organized manner with a clearly defined start and finish point to achieve some specific result that satisfied the new needs of an organization as derived from the current business plan. And finally, the fourth definition, a project is a combination of human and non-human resources pulled together in a temporary organization to achieve a specified purpose. So these are the basic definitions given by the different philosophers or say the writers. And for our engineering purpose, the definition of a project can be a project is a set of one-time only activities. It means that the project is not repeated again and again and it is designed to attain the specific objective within the constraint of time, cost and quality in dynamic environment. As there are varieties of people or say the stakeholders involved in the project, so the environment of the project never becomes static. It means that the environment of project is changing or say dynamic. And in that changing environment, we have to achieve our tasks within the constraint of time, cost, and quality. And this can be achieved by thorough planning. It means that before going to the execution phase of the project, we have to be very clear about our tasks. What is the objective of the task? What is the goal of the task? What is the vision of the task? That should be clear in our mind. And we have to control the varieties of resources during the execution phase. And finally, it gives the unique product or services in temporary life span. So in this way, we can define a project. Now, the next topic, resources of a project. There are varieties of resources for the performance of any activity in a project. Without the resources, no any activities can be performed. Generally, these resources are denoted by 5 capital M, where the first M denotes the money. In another way, it can also be said as the financial resources. Without the financial resources, no any tasks of a project can be progressed. For the buying of the machinery, for the payment of the laborers, or say the buying of the material, etc. For all sort of that activities, the financial resources comes to play. Similarly, the second resources is manpower or say human resources. Without human resources, no any activities can be performed. From the design phase or say from the skilled manpower to unskilled manpower, the person is required for the execution of any task or say to give the idea into reality. So manpower plays an important role for the performance of any task in a project. Similarly, the third one is the material. We know that without raw material, no any product can be produced or say we can use as a consumer. Therefore, materials are very important resources for the achievement of the goal or objective of a task. Similarly, the second last one, is the machine. For the transformation of the raw material into the final outcome or say the product, machine plays an important role. As we can see in the construction of house, some mixing machines, or say in the road construction we can see at the loaders, graders, excavators, or say in the hydropower construction we can see as a tunnel boring machine. These are all the examples of machine, and without machine no any task can be achieved. And finally, the last resources is minute or management. As we know that minute is universal and project has to be completed within the specified deadline. Therefore, the time or say the minute can also be considered as the important resource of any project. Therefore, the management of these above listed resources rely on the core function of project management. For the better understanding of the concept of project, what we have to understand is that from where the project originates. Basically, the project originates from the policy prior to plan. Here, the policy is reduction in load shedding as an example. So first of all, any project begins with the policy and policy is supported by plan. Plan is nothing but the image or say map or vision for executing any type of task in a project. So here the plan is electrification as an example. Now under the plan there might be different types of program. Here, the example might be the Renewable Energy Program, Hydropower Development Program, Rural Electrification Program. And these programs are all based on the sectoral basis. And under the program, there might be the different types of project. For example, in case of hydropower project, it might be the construction project, it might be the transmission or distribution project, or it might be the maintenance project, and so on. And here I have taken an example as the construction of ABC hydropower project. And under the project, there might be different types of work packages. As we can see that hydropower consists of different types of expertise like civil engineering as well as mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. Here the civil engineering is based on the civil work construction, and the mechanical works are related to mechanical engineers, as well as the electrical works are related to the electrical engineers such as transmission and distribution lines. And under the work packages, there are different types of tasks commonly known as the activities. And for example, here it is taken as the construction of canal, construction of powerhouse, etc. So this is the basic example of how the project originates and how the project is developed. Furthermore, a good project is that which is technically feasible. It means that there are varieties of technologies that might be used in the project, and whether the project is capable of using that particular type of technology or not, whether it is technically feasible or not, that should be checked prior to starting a project. Similarly, the second one is economically viable. The cost associated in the project or inputs provided to the project and the benefit given by the project or say the revenue provided by the project should be economically viable. It means that the benefit cost ratio should always be greater than 1 for the project to be economically feasible. Similarly, third one is socially acceptable. It means that where we are going to actually implement that particular project, the background, the education level, the types of people, caste, culture, etc. Every these elements hampers or say affects the performance of the project. So we have to know beforehand whether the project is socially acceptable or not. Second last one is the politically suitable. The government plays an important role or say without the support of government no any project can be executed in any country. The type of the political system, the thoughts, belief of political ideologies, these factors play an important role for the project to be successful. And finally, the project should be environmental friendly. It means that the project should not hamper the ecology or ecosystem. The terminology called the environmental impact assessment should be done beforehand for the execution of any project. So these 5 points should be considered in the mind because projects are considered as the cutting edge of any development. Now let's move on to examples of project. There are different types of examples of project. First one is the construction project, which is related to civil engineering. An example might be building, road, hydropower, irrigation, water supply, etc. Second one is the research and development project, which is related to the development of or say invention or discovery of new technology or say nuclear weapons or say medicines or any other types of product or services. Similarly, third one is introducing new product in the market, as well as another one is developing new or modified information system. And another example might be the running a campaign for political office. And another example is producing movie or serial. Similarly, implementing new businesses procedure or processes can also be considered as an example of project. And finally, writing a book, thesis, novel, etc. is also an example of project. All of these examples have the defined goal which is unique, which is performed under the constraint of time, cost and quality, and finally it gives some benefits to the users who are finally using it. Now let's move on to the another topic of this lecture, which is the characteristics of a project. How any job or task can be said as a project. Any job or task can be said as a project if it fulfills some of the characteristics. And the characteristics of the project might be a defined goal or objective. Here, what we have to understand is that in a project, there are different types of stakeholders or say the people involved in it, and the goal is common for all the stakeholders, and objective might differ among the stakeholders, and clearly defined goals are essential so that each stakeholder understand the purpose and vision of the project team. A project has the clearly defined specific objective or mission, and the project always focuses on the end result. As the goal or objective of the project is being met, then the project ceases. For example, the goal of a construction project is to build an infrastructure or the facility. Similarly, another type of characteristics is unique. Unique means no two projects are absolutely similar to each other. It means that one task might be different from another task, or in other words, one project might be different from the another project because of the design, because of the cost, because of the time, and because of the location, and so many other factors are different among the two projects. Therefore, the project involves doing something which has not been done before, and therefore it can be considered as unique. Similarly, the third characteristic is specific tasks not routinely performed. It means that in any project, no any task is repeated again and again. If one type of task is performed and the similar task is not being repeated again and again until the completion of the project. For example, if we take the building project, the foundation work is being done once only. After the foundation work, no foundation work is carried out again and again. Some sort of new task is being carried out. Therefore, in a project, what we can say is that specific task is not routinely performed. Similarly, the fourth characteristics of a project is temporary or lifespan. A project cannot go forever. Once its declared objectives are met, then the project ceases. It means that the project have some sort of deadlines. The project team has to perform the particular tasks in that designed deadline, and the project starts with the definite certain date and ends in the definite certain date, and the duration or life of the project always depends upon its nature and scope. According to the nature and scope of the project, the life or the duration of the project might differ from one another. Therefore, we can say that the project has the fixed time span, or in other words, it is temporary. The fifth point of characteristics is teamwork. As I have mentioned earlier, that there are varieties of people involved in the project for the fulfillment of the objective, or say the common goal, and these varieties of people can be said as stakeholders, and project is always performed through the teamwork, and the project consists of multifunctional team, and these team members are temporarily assigned from other functional department. They come from the various discipline with varied experiences. For example, in a hydropower project, there might be the different types of stakeholders. For example, the civil engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, geologists, sociologists, etc. These peoples are all said to be the stakeholders, and they have the common goal of producing the electricity, and their objective might differ. And the key stakeholder in a project can be: number one is the project manager. The project manager is such type of person who overall takes the responsibility of a project and manages the project. Second one is the customer. the individual or organization that will use the project's product or services. It means that before starting any type of project, it is important to identify the customer. Without the identification of the customer, we cannot move onto the project, because customers or the consumers are the main person who will finally use that product or services. Similarly, the third one is the performing organization, or in other words, we can say as the contractor. The enterprise whose employees are most directly involved in doing the work of the project. Particularly, these peoples are involved during the execution phase, or say the implementation phase of the project. Similarly, the fourth one is the sponsor, the individual or the group that provides the financial resources in cash or in kind for the project. So banks, lenders, donors, or some NGOs might be the sponsors in any project. And finally, the last stakeholder is the client. The client is the individual or group which specifies their own requirement, that how the project will go on and how the shape of the project will be. So these are the major stakeholders of any type of project. The sixth resources is resource being consumed. As we have mentioned earlier, that there are five types of resources that is required for the performance of any activities in a project. That is money, material, manpower, machine, and minutes. The project team has to perform the tasks on limited resources and efficiently manage projects, minimize, balance, and forecast the resource consumption for the owner. Another characteristics of a project is risks and uncertainties. As we have mentioned earlier, that project is a unique task. It means that it is not being repeated again and again. As we are doing the new tasks, the risks and uncertainty in a project is inevitable. So risks and uncertainty go hand in hand with the project. In the initial phase of the project, the risk is very high. As the project moves on, the level of risks also goes down. Even if a project appears to be risk free, it only means that the risk element is not apparently visible on the surface, and it will be hidden underneath. The risk factor will come to surface when the conditions become conducive to it. Even though in the initial phase of the project, the risks might not be seen in the surface level, but it can be underneath, so it can hamper the overall performance of the project. Similarly, the eighth characteristics is planning and control. Planning means nothing but deciding beforehand of any task, how it will be performed, when it will be performed, and who will perform it. Therefore, the project requires the effective planning, means it will give the vision, idea, or say map, or say the main way how the tasks in the project will be handled. So the standards are set for project activities through planning. They serve as a yardstick for measuring the project performance. Actual performance is compared with the standard to find out the deviation. During the execution phase of the project, the actual performance, what we are doing in the project, is being compared with the standard that have been set in the planning phase, and it gives the proper way of monitoring and controlling any type of tasks in a project. Therefore, planning plays an important role in any project, and corrective actions are taken to control the deviations. Similarly, another characteristics is the constraint. The major constraint of a project is time, cost, and quality. It means that we have to perform the task under the limitation of time as the deadline is already set, or in other words, the project has the certain starting date and certain finishing date. Therefore, the project team members have to work within the constraint of time. And in another way, the project has to be completed within the allocated budget. The project member cannot use the monetary value as they like because the funds are available in limited numbers, and the project should be performed under the required, or say the desired quality, and this quality is governed by the specification. Similarly, another characteristics is contracting and subcontracting. Most projects are contract based. Contract is nothing but the agreement between the two or more than two people where the legal validity is assigned, or say enforced by the law. So the owner, or say the contractor, have the agreement of performing the tasks in the project, and they will sign the contract, which is characterized by the different types like lump sum contract, unit price contract, negotiated cost plus fixed fee contract, and turnkey contract. So proper contract planning and management is the key to effective project management. Similarly, another characteristics is progressive elaboration. This characteristics combines or integrates the concept of temporary and unique. The product of each project is unique. The characteristics that distinguishes the product or service must be progressively elaborated. Progressive means proceeding in step by step, that is, continuing steadily by increments, and elaboration means worked out with care and detail, that is, thoroughly developed. And the second last one is the life cycle. Definitely, the project has certain starting date and certain ending date. It means that the project has the life cycle. When the project starts and the project ends, the project passes through different types of phases like initiation, planning, executing, designing, as well as termination. And the collective name of all these phases are known as the life cycle of the project. When the project starts, the project should be finished, and that is known as the life cycle of the project. And final characteristics is the defined deliverable. It means that it is clearly known beforehand that what the outcome of the project will be. It means that the owners or the project team will know beforehand what the project will deliver. So these are the major 13 characteristics of how any task can be said as a project. Now let's move on to the another topic of this lecture, which is difference between project and program. As we have discussed shortly, that project is the part of the program. First of all, the policy is developed and policy is supported by the plan, and under the plan different types of program exist, and under the program different sort of projects are involved. So how any program can be differentiated from the project, these points are going to be dealt under this topic. The first basis of difference is nature. In case of project, it involves one-time set of activities. It means that the task in a project is not repeated again and again. It is only one-time activity. Whereas in program, it involves group of small and large project. Second point of difference is on the basis of scope. Scope means nothing what to do and what not to do. In case of project, involves single undertaking, well-defined objective, scope and time frame. In case of program, involves multiple undertakings, boundaries, scope and objective may differ for various projects. Here what we can conclude is that in case of project, scope is defined, but in case of program, the scope might be in the broad form. The another point of difference is on the basis of objective. A specific objective for each project depending upon nature and size. Whereas in case of program, overall sectoral objectives for the program as a whole. It means that the program is set on the sector wise basis. For example, the sector might be agricultural sector, educational sector, construction sector, tourism sector, etc. and etc. So the program always exists on the sectoral basis. Similarly, the another point of difference is on the basis of lifespan. In case of project, it has fixed lifespan, specific beginning and end points. It ends with the accomplishment of objective. As we have mentioned earlier, that project is always temporary in nature. It means that within the shortened deadline, the objective or say the goal of the project has to be achieved. But in case of program, it has flexible lifespan. Program is spread over various plans. Objective can be achieved over a long period of time. It means that there is no any set deadline for achieving any type of objective or goal. Similarly, fifth point of difference is on the basis of tailor-made. In case of project, it is customized or tailor-made to customer specification or benefits a particular group. Here, what we can understand is that the product or services is finally delivered to the consumers according to their requirement. What the client wants, the product is delivered in accordance to the requirement of the client or the owner. But in case of program, it is for the benefit of the different target groups at different time periods. It benefits the overall society. So it is not focused for the particular client or say the particular people. Rather, it is focused for the overall society. The next point of difference is on the basis of responsibility. It is entrusted to one project manager and has its own budget. It means that the project manager is overall responsible for the efficient and effective use of the resources and overall management of the project. But in case of program, it is entrusted to program managers with program budget. Another point of difference is based on the basis of coverage. In case of project, it is the part of the overall program, whereas in case of program, it is an integral part of the national development or corporate plan. And finally, on the basis of rules and regulation. In case of project, it is governed by the set of flexible rules and regulation, whereas in case of program, it is governed by the rigid rules and regulations guided by overall governmental directives. So these are the basic points of difference between project and program. To understand more about the project and program, some hierarchy is provided or say mentioned in the figure. Here what we can see in the first level is the National Development Plan, and this might be the overall plan of any nation, and under this plan there might be the different types of sectoral program. The program might be agricultural program, road program, health program, and hydropower program. And under these different types of program, the different types of projects might occur. Here we can see under the agricultural program, the fertilizer project is been introduced, livestock project can be introduced, mechanization project can be introduced, and pasture project can be introduced. Similarly, under the road program, there might be highway project, maintenance project, construction project, and safety project. Similarly, under the health program, there might be AIDS prevention program or say project, drugs control project, family planning project, mother child health project, and finally under hydropower program, there might be hydropower construction, hydropower transmission, hydropower distribution, and hydropower maintenance project. So what we can understand here is that in the first hierarchy or say in the level, there always exists the plan, and under the plan it exists program, and program is supported by the project. So this is the basic hierarchy of plan, program, and project. Now let's move on to the another topic, which is the final topic of this lecture, that is introduction to project management. Before moving to project management, first of all, let's understand what the management is about. Management is nothing but the art of getting things done through and with people in formally organized group. If any tasks or say if any goal or objective is being achieved through the use of other people or say the effort of other person, then it can be said as the management. Or in another way, management is the effective and efficient use of human and non-human resources for the attainment of the goal or objective of any organization. And definitely the management increases the productivity through technological innovation, taking into account human factors involved in these advances. And project management is the creation of something that did not previously exist an ad hoc basis so that the project meets cost, schedule, and scope objective. The technique of management which is applied in the project for the achievement of the goal or objective under the constraint of cost, time, and quality is said to be project management. And the principle of general management applied to project management. It is nothing but the new approach of thinking about achieving objective within stipulated time, allocated budget, and performance standard. And it is highly specialized job to achieve the objective of a project. And project management involves planning, scheduling, and controlling of activities. And basically, planning and scheduling are accomplished before the actual project is being started. It means that some sort of paperwork is needed to be performed before going into the implementation phase of the project. Therefore, planning and scheduling is always done in a table, whereas the controlling is done in the real field, where the actual performance of the project is undergoing, then the controlling phase is occurred. And the controlling phase is to recognize the difficulties during the execution of the project task. Therefore, it is a new way of thinking about management. It manages complexity and change in a dynamic environment. As we have said earlier, that project always operates in a dynamic environment. The situation of the project is ever changing. Therefore, the complexity is also huge in the project. Therefore, to manage that project, the new way of thoughts are being developed, and it makes efficient use of resources for better client satisfaction. Project management is a system approach for efficient and effective achievement of project objectives through assignment of the total project responsibility and accountability to a single person. It means that a single person, or say the project manager, is responsible for the overall management of the project. Similarly, there are different types of people involved into the project, commonly known as stakeholders, and the coordination between these stakeholders are very essential for the success of any project. Therefore, coordination across and with the stakeholder is another fundamental things that we have to bear in our mind during the project management. And finally, proper utilization of planning and control tools for better resource use within the constraint of time, cost, and quality. As we have mentioned earlier, that project is performed under the limitation of time and cost and quality. Therefore, the utilization of the resources should be according to that limitation. To be more clear about the project management, let's see the figure, which is model of project management. Here we can see that a specific objective or goal is being set at the beginning of the project, and for achieving that particular goal or objective, the project tasks are basically performed under the constraint of time, cost, and quality. And the focus is always for the customer. It means that the final product or services are definitely being used by the consumers. So, before executing or initiating the project, what we have to understand is that identification of the consumer is most necessary. Without the identification of the off-takers, or say the consumers, then the project products cannot be sold into the market, and the project cannot get the anticipated benefits or the revenue in the monetary terms. And for fulfilling these objective or goal, we have to use the resources in the effective and the efficient manner under the limitation of time, cost, and quality. Now, these are the basic concepts of project management, and now finally we define what project management is. Now let's go through the definition. Different writers have given the different thoughts about project management. The first one is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirement. Second one, it is accomplished through the use of processes such as initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. Third one, it is a series of activities embodied in a process of getting things done by working with the members of the project team and with other people in order to reach the project schedule, cost, and technical performance activities. So, these are the basic definitions of project management. And the basic concept of project management is all work is a process and processes combine to create a phase. Any activities that is performed in a project can be said as a process, and if we combine these processes then it becomes a phase. And the various phases with well-defined milestone make up a project. As we have mentioned earlier, the project has the starting date and the ending date, and during the starting and the ending date, the project passes through the different phases, and these different phases makes up a overall project. An uncertainty and risk is inevitable in each phase. As we have said earlier in the characteristics of the project is that project is not repeated again and again. Project always involves doing a new task. It means that project is unique. So if we are performing the new task which was not done before, then the uncertainty and risks in a project in each phase is inevitable because we do not have any information about that particular task. Therefore, uncertainty is unavoidable in the project. And if we cannot measure and manage that uncertainty or risk, then it can be considered as one of the worst enemy of a project. Therefore, we should be able to manage and measure the risks, or in other words, we can say that the risk management should be done in an appropriate manner. And finally, by using some specific tools and systematic application, project can be effectively managed. Basically, there are 9 managerial functions that the project manager should bear in mind for managing any type of project. If these 9 elements are managed appropriately, then we can say the project is successful. The first type of management is the integration management. In other words, it can be said as the plan development. Plan is nothing but it gives an idea, image, or vision for performing any type of task in the future. In another way, it can be said as the predetermined course of action to be undertaken in the future. Therefore, the development of plan is very, very important for the initiation of project. Second one is the project scope management. Scope defines what sort of tasks is going to be accomplished or say performed in the project. It gives an idea about the coverage or the area that the project is going to be occur. For example, if you are constructing the house, then how much story you are going to construct. That gives you the scope of the project. Whether you are constructing about 2-story building or 4-story building or 5-story building. The design requirements differ according to the story of the building. Therefore, scope management is also necessary part of the project management. Similarly, the third one is the time management. As project is performed under the limited time, the time should be managed accordingly. Fourth one, the project cost management. The project is always performed under the limitations of allocated budget provided to the project. Therefore, cost management is also one of the most important factor in the project management. Similarly, as we have mentioned earlier, risk is inevitable in any project. Therefore, effective risk management should also be done. Another one is the project human resource management. Skilled and unskilled human resources are the prime stakeholders for the completion of any tasks in the project. So, managing these skilled and unskilled human resources is very complex phenomena for the project manager. Therefore, human resource management also plays an important part for any project management. Similarly, project quality management. The project output should be provided in a desired quality. It means that the quality is governed by specification. So before starting any project, the specification should be prepared beforehand and the work should be carried out according to the specification. The second last one is the communication management. The communication plays the vital role for the effective project management. The communication between the stakeholders of the project is essential for the success of any project. And finally, the project procurement manager. What sort of services we are going to acquire and what sort of material that we are going to take from the project is the procurement management. The available material should be come to the project site as per the requirement. So these are the basic 9 managerial functions that the project manager should consider. So this comes to the end of this lecture, and for the preparation of this lecture there were some references undertaken. The first one is the fundamental of POT and CPM and project management, S.K. Bhattacharjee, second edition, Khanna Publishers, New Delhi, India, published in year 2002. Second one, A Guide to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK, which was the 2000 edition, developed by Project Management Institute, Newton Square, Pennsylvania, USA. The third one is Planning Projects, written by Trevor Real Young, Sterling Publishers Private Limited, New Delhi, India, 1996. Fourth one, System Analysis and Project Management, written by Cleland David and D.W. King, McGraw-Hill, Newark, USA, in the year 1967. Fifth one, Project Management, Planning, Analysis and Control, written by Bhakti Prasad Sharma, first edition, Ekta Book Distribution Private Limited, Kathmandu, Nepal, published in year 2006. Sixth one, Project Management in Nepal, Dr. Govindaram Agrawal, MK Publishers and Distributors was the publisher in Nepal, published in year 2006. Seventh one, Project Management, Dhruva Prasad Rizal, first edition, Ratna Pustak Bhandar, Kathmandu, Nepal, 2001. The website articlejunction.blogspot.com 2017 for definition of management.html was used. Similarly, ninth one, Project Planning and Control with POT and CPM, Dr. B.C. Punima and K.K. Khandelwal, third edition, Lakshmi Publication Private Limited, New Delhi, India, 1987. And the last one, Project Management, Strategic Design and Implementation, written by Cleland David, Newark, McGraw-Hill Publisher, published in year 1995. I hope this lecture is very useful And this is the end of this lecture. Thank you very much.